Yo, check this out. Ant-Man is taking over.
Edwards gets it back and threw it down and one from the rafters. The Ant-Hitter's hurt his hand on that too.
You ass nigga. Oh my God.
Lil you heard him. Like, Ant is hilarious. That reaction was classic. Did you see the white dude's reaction too? The reporter, he didn't even know what to say. He was, are we on air? Like, what's going on? Like, yo, Ant is hilarious. His personality is on point. Game is especially on point. Like, I'm a big fan of Anthony Edwards, man. Well, I can't wait to see what he does. Can't wait for the playoffs to start to see how active he gets. You know what I mean? Like, Ant is legit. Like, all these Mike comparisons are, you know, I didn't agree with them, but somebody asked Mike and Mike agreed. So who am I to argue with Mike? You know what I mean? If MJ thinks Ant Edwards plays like MJ, then Ant Edwards plays like MJ. But I still feel like Ant Edwards is his own player and is, you know, is going to be legit out there. And I can't wait to see what his career is going to look like. So shout out Ant Edwards.
Shout out.
All right. Let's get into the NBA playoff play-in tournament. It's coming up. It's time to start talking about it. In the East, we got the Heat, we got the Sixers, we got the Bulls, and we got the Hawks. Like, I like the Bulls coming out, and I like the Heat. I think they're going to do it. I just don't like the Sixers, and Embiid still ain't back yet. They're still not the team they should be. And the Heat, you know, they're the Heat. Like, they might have some injury issues with Hero and Robinson, but they still got Jimmy Buckets, so you can't really count them out. And then you got the Bulls. The Bulls are an upstart. Like, they definitely do their thing. They compete every night. Like, they got a nice little core going on. Like, Kobe definitely showed up, and, you know, he's in line for most improved player. Like, I feel like they got a squad, so I feel like they're gonna actually make the playoffs this year, believe it or not. Drummond in the middle, you know, they got some heat. Like, you know, Nikolai, like, I like what they do. So, you know, the Bulls and the Heat are gonna come out the East, I feel like, and lose to whoever they play in the first round too. But in the West, you got the Mavs, you got the Warriors, you got the Lakers. Like, you got some teams, and the Suns. I can't forget the Suns. Like, there's some teams coming out. That means you got some superstar players in the play-in tournament this year. KD, Devin Booker, LeBron, Steph, Luka, and Kyrie. Like, this is exciting to watch. Like, I really don't know who's gonna come out. And there's a race for the 7th spot going on. Like, between Dallas, Sacramento, the Suns. Like, they're all pretty close in games. So I really like Dallas. Like, I think Dallas is gonna do it. I think the Kings are gonna make the playoffs, but the Suns are suspect. Like, I don't know about the Suns. Like, they did sign a vet point guard to a 10-game contract, and we'll get into that in a minute, but I just don't know if they're going to be able to pull it together. Like, the Warriors and the Lakers, like, I really can't call them. Like, I don't want to go against Warriors. I don't want to go against Steph Sauce, but at the same time, it's LeBron James. Like, it's LeBron James. Like, how can you go against LeBron James? So, you know, the Lakers are going to be tough. With LeBron and AD, like, I feel like they're going to make it out the West. I think they're going to, you know, grab onto a playoff spot. And then as far as the Mavs and the Suns, I like the Mavs. I think the Mavs are going to come out. If they have to play in the play-in, I think they're going to win it. They're just a better team. They're deeper. They got Luka. They got Kyrie. They got all those dunkers on their team. They got shooters. They got depth. Like, they got everything you need, I think, to withstand it and beat the Suns. Like, I just don't think the Suns have enough. Like, even if they do get a point guard, even if KD is healthy, Booker's healthy, Beal is healthy, like, I just don't like that team setup. I just don't like the makeup. I don't like the depth. I don't like anything about the Suns. So I feel like the Mavs are going to do it, but it's still going to be exciting to watch. Like, I can't wait for the tournament to start. Like, it's going to be something to see. So stay tuned. Yo, so your boy Isaiah Thomas is back in the league. I'm happy for this guy, man. I've been watching him for the last few years fight and struggle to get back into the league, and now he's finally back. He signed a 10-day with the Suns, which isn't official, but it's still 10 days to prove that he's legit, and I think he'll do that, especially on the Phoenix Suns, because the Phoenix Suns need a point guard. Like, Devin Booker bringing the ball up the court and orchestrating the offense is not what he does. Like, he can do it, but I don't feel like it's what he does. I feel like he's better off coming off screens, coming off picks, catching the ball and going to work. Like him bringing up the ball is just doing too much. They need a point guard. They need a legit point guard to help bring that ball up the court and set up that offense. And I think Isaiah Thomas is that guy. In the G League, he averaged 30 something a game, shot 37% from the field, 40 from three, 32 years old. Like he's definitely 35 years old. He's definitely somebody who can come out there and put some minutes up and definitely contribute to that team. I don't like Grayson Allen in the starting lineup. Like he's a good player. Like he does his thing. He's a scrappy player, but I think he's just better off on the bench. So you bring Isaiah Thomas in, have him start at the point guard, move Devin over to the 2, look KD at the 3, Nurkic at the 5. Like they're a legit roster now. Like I feel like they're going to definitely put some, be competitive. And I think when it comes to that play-in tournament, they have the toughest schedule going forward. So, they got a lot to prove, but I just feel like if they can get through it and still hold on to the 7th, 8th, 9 positions in that play-in tournament, they're going to be tough. Like the Mavs, if they have to play the Mavs, I think that'll be an awesome matchup to watch. Like I still like the Mavs. I just think they're a little bit deeper than the Suns are, but I think it'll be competitive. And I think Isaiah Thomas is going to add to that competitiveness. And I'm looking forward to see what he does the rest of this season. The latest on the Ben Simmons saga. This man is having his second back surgery in 3 years. Nets announced it earlier last week that he's actually out for the rest of the season due to having another back surgery. Like, this is crazy. Did y'all know that LeBron James has played more games as a Laker than Ben Simmons has played in his career? Like, that just blows my mind. But the man's only 27 years old. He's having 2 back surgeries in 3 years. Like, I don't know if he's going, if he's going to make it through this. Like, this is big news. This is an issue for him. Like, obviously his back is not where he wants it to be. He came into the season talking all this yang about he was back and he was fully healthy and, the back wasn't going to be an issue anymore. And now we're right back to square one. Now he's right back on the operating table, getting that same back worked on. Like, I don't like this. I don't feel like he's going to bounce back from this. I think Ben Simmons is probably done. And he had a good run. You know what I mean? He made over $300 million in the NBA, only playing less than 400 games in his career. Like, how many players can say that? Like, he's definitely set himself financially for the rest of his life. So, at the end of the day, that's what you're in the game to, is to work and to make money. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to play. He wasn't able to contend, but he was still out there competing, had some good moments, made some good plays, especially in Philly, had a good run. So, you really can't be too mad at it. So I'm praying for Ben Simmons, and hopefully, he makes it through this back surgery and he feels more comfortable and he's able to, make it back into the league. And even if he can't make it, he still had a solid career. So shout out Ben Simmons. Zion Williamson, man, this boy is balling. And come find out, he's lost 25 pounds since the in-season tournament earlier this year. Like, that's a lot of weight to lose in 3-4 months. And I think a major factor and a major reason why he lost all that weight is Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, and Kenny Smith on Inside the NBA basically tearing him down because he was just out of shape in that in-season tournament. And he definitely was, but he's turning around. Like, this Zion Williamson we're watching now is the Zion that came out of Duke that we were expecting to dominate the NBA. Like, he's a matchup nightmare at the 4 position, and he is dominating his position. He's carrying the Pelicans. Like, the Pelicans got a squad with Ingram and Davis and McCollum and, Grand Theft. Like, I love that nickname, Grand Theft Auto. Like, your boy, the Pelicans is balling. But Zion is definitely the head. Like, he's definitely carrying that team, and it's just nice to see him back and nice to see him in shape and nice to see him motivated and out to prove the naysayers wrong and that he could actually ball and he's actually an NBA player. So Zion, I can't wait for the playoffs to start to see the Pelicans ball and to see what Zion does in the playoffs. That's the one thing he hasn't done, is played in the playoffs. And so I can't wait to see what that looks like, especially the shape that he's in and the motivation that he has behind that. Like, it's going to be something to watch. Like, Zion is balling. That boy balling. All right, let's talk about this tournament, March Madness. I'm excited. Like, it looks dope out there. Like, to be real, keep it 100 with y'all. Like, I don't really watch the tournament like that. Like, I'm not a big college basketball dude. Like, I'm more like into the pros than I am, the college basketball network. But this year, I'm tapping in. Like we gonna see what's going on. I'm starting from the head. I filled out a bracket. You know what I mean? Like I'm all in this season. So especially with the women's tournament, the men's tournament, not so much. You know what I mean? Like I don't really have too much to say about that. But the women's tournament is just exciting. There's just a lot of players, a lot of drama, a lot of contentious relationships going on that you just want to watch and see what happens. So I'm excited by the women's tournament. They announced the seedings last week, so we know who the ones are, we know who the twos are, we know who the threes are in each region. So let's go over them real quick. The ones, we got South Carolina, we got Iowa, we got USC, we got Texas. Like South Carolina's legit. Like I don't really have to say too much about them. Led by Dawn Staley. Like they had an undefeated season. Like nobody beat them. So they obviously are a legit team. Iowa's got Caitlin Clark, the player of the decade right now. Like she is balling. Like Caitlin Clark, the NCAA all-time leading scorer. You know what I mean? Like Caitlin Clark is definitely it. So, really don't have too much to say with that. Iowa leads the nation in scoring. They have the fourth best assist to turnover ratio, so the guards definitely be showing up. So they're in a tough region with LSU and UCLA, and UCLA is going to give them a run, and so is LSU. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But then you got SC. Like SC's got my girl Juju is balling. Like I said, Juju is she's definitely got next, and I can't wait to see what she does in the tournament. Like she needs a little help from her team because her team is not as solid as you'd like them to be. But she showed up in the they showed up in the Pac-12 championship game. Like they won that game, and Juju had a relatively quiet game. She didn't put up all those numbers she put up against Stanford the last time they played, and the rest of her team showed up. Like she's got a whole bunch of Ivy League transfers on her team. So in my mind, they're a really smart team, obviously intelligent, and they're poised. You know what I mean? They understand the situation, the circumstances, and I don't think they're going to let it overwhelm them. So I really like SC. I like SC a lot, actually. And then you got Texas, and Texas is led by another freshman, Madison Booker. Like Madison Booker is ill. Like she's a point forward surrounded by 3-point shooters, so she definitely distributes the ball. She plays defense, has an elite inside game. Like I really like Madison Booker. Like she's another freshman that's coming up. Like I said, there's a lot of talent out on the women's field. Like you want to talk about freshmen, and as far as number twos, you got to start with Notre Dame. Like Notre Dame got this freshman named Hannah Hidalgo. Remember that name. Maybe you heard it here first, or maybe you've already heard her, but if you had never heard of her, you've heard it here first. Hannah Hidalgo. Now she's a baller. She had some summer league tape she put out. Man, she's nice with it. Like I really like what she brings to the table. I like Notre Dame. I think they do it. She puts up 23, 6, and 5 per game, so she definitely does it. And she plays defense. She's a strong defensive player, leading the nation in steals. So Hannah Hidalgo is definitely going to make some noise in the tournament. Ohio State's a tough defensive team, but they took some tough losses during the season, so it's hard for me to imagine them doing anything. But they're definitely, they got the number 2 ranking, so they're definitely going to make some noise, I feel like. Then you got Stanford. Stanford is nice. They got Cameron Brink, senior, leading the nation in blocks. She's paired up with Kiki Urifin. That duo scores about 36, 37 points per game. So that's an awesome duo they got in Stanford. They just need some help on the front court. If they could get some forward help and some rebounds, and I think they would definitely do their thing. But Stanford's nice. They took a tough loss against SC and Juju and them in the Pac-12 championship game. So they definitely have something to prove going into the tournament. So I like their chances. And then you got UCLA, LA's other college team. Like UCLA is balling. They got a squad. They got Charisma Osborne is a baller. They got Lauren Betts putting up 14 and 9. Like I like what UCLA brings to the table. They lead the nation in rebounding, which is important because rebounds are a part of defense. So if you're a good rebounding team, I mean you're a good defensive team, because the team you're playing against usually only gets one possession, one shot, because you're going to grab that rebound. So rebounds are a key ingredient when it comes to defense, and UCLA leads the nation in doing that. So UCLA is going to be tough. I like what they bring to the table too. Then when we talk about the number 3 seeds, you got UConn, LSU, NC State, Oregon State. UConn is, they got the former player of the year in Paige Beckers coming off that knee injury. Right now she's putting up 2 steals and 1 block per game. So she's actually playing defense on top of playing that beautiful offense she got. Man, Paige is nice. Like, I like what she brings to the table. I like UConn a lot. Aziz Fudd, Aubrey Gifford were out for the season, but they still have managed to, hold ship and get a number 3 seed this year. So you really can't, be mad at what they're doing. Like, I like KK Arnold. I like Ashton Shade. Like, I like what UConn is bringing. They're a strong number 3 seed. They were probably not the strongest, because you got LSU's a number 3 seed too. And of course they got Angel Reese, they got Flojo Johnson. Like, I like what LSU is bringing to the table. Like, the defending national champions, they brought Haley Van Lith and Anisha Morrow on. Like, they got a squad. Like, they definitely have some stuff to prove, because they took some losses over the course of the season. So coming into the tournament, I think they're going to be really, ready to go. You know what I mean? Like, I expect them to ball. And then you got Oregon State. Oregon State's a big, huge underdog. The reason I say that is because they have no seniors on their team. They're all freshmen and sophomores. And that usually means that team is very inexperienced, and, they might be a little overwhelmed and unprepared for what's going on, but they're a well-coached team. They got the number 3 seed, so they're obviously legit. So I feel like Oregon State, they have a good chance of doing something, but, they're a team to watch. And then you got other teams to watch too, like Utah, led by former player of the year, Lisa Peely. She's a transfer from USC. They actually beat USC earlier in the season, so they're a strong team as well. I keep an eye on Utah. You got Virginia Tech with Liz Keatley and Georgia Moore. Like, they're definitely tough. You got Nebraska. Nebraska's a tough team to watch with Jazz Shaley. Like, I really like Nebraska. And then you got Tennessee. Tennessee almost beat the Gamecocks earlier this season. They almost ruined this undefeated season they have. So Tennessee's a tough team. They're led by Rakia Johnson. Like, that team is really deep and really tough, and should be fun to watch. So like I said, the tournament, as far as on the women's side, is really going to be fun. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what the ladies do. As far as the men, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not really into the men's tournament. Like, a lot of guys are going to come out and show themselves and kind of prove that they should have been watched over the course of the season. I'm gonna have to apologize, but right now I don't really know too many players. Like, you got the number 1 seeds, UConn, Purdue, Houston, UNC. Like, I know Purdue's got a big man, Zach Edey. He's good. Like, he looks dominant down in the middle. Like, he puts up 24 and 11 per game. Like, I like what they do. They're a strong rebounding team as well, and they also shoot 40% from 3 as a team. So Purdue's gonna be tough. Like, UConn's a defending champion. I like what they bring. It's really hard to repeat when you don't bring back your core team that won the championship in the previous season. Like, a lot of those players got drafted, but they're still there. They still got the number 1 seed in this year's tournament, so I like what they bring as well. They average 121 points per game. They hold the other team to 87 points per game, so that means they play some tough defense. So I like what UConn's bringing. Speaking of tough defense, Houston's the number 1 seed too. They play tough D. Everybody likes Houston. Like, everything I've looked at, everybody likes Houston. So Houston's obviously going to be there, even though for me they're kind of suspect, because they took a tough loss to Iowa State just the other day, and they got blown out the box. I think they only scored like 47 points in the game. So Houston, they look good, but I don't know. That's a tough loss. You can't fall asleep in the tournament, and they definitely fell asleep in that game. Speaking of Iowa State, they got a number 2 ranking in this tournament. Like I said, they took down Houston, but only allowed them to score 41 points, 40-something points. So, Iowa State is tough. Like, just that alone shows me that they're a squad to be reckoned with. So I'm definitely, keeping an eye on them. Arizona's a tough squad. Like, everybody's picking Arizona to make it to the Final Four. So I really like what they bring. They got, a few Bello, Larson, Bradley. Like, they got some players down there. Don't let me forget UNC, because I'm a big Tar Heel guy. Like, the Tar Heels, like, they got a squad too, led by RJ Davis, averaging 20 points per game, shooting 40 from 3. They got Bacon, led by Hubert Davis, head coach. So UNC, they got the number 1 seed, so they should be tough as well. Who am I forgetting? Like, Creighton's supposed to be tough. They got a number 3 seed in this tournament. So like I said, I don't know too much about them. I don't know too much about a lot of the teams in this tournament as far as the men's side. So I'm gonna be watching and taking notes and kind of paying attention to what's going on, and we're gonna talk about it when from week to week, and we're gonna chop it up about what's going on in the tournament, and I'm gonna watch it the whole tournament. Like, I'm kind of excited about it, because like I said, I ain't never watched college basketball before. I've never been a big tournament guy, but I'm locked in this year, so let's go. All right, y'all know what time it is. Not talked about enough. This is a segment where we talk about players from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s that were great players, but just don't get the recognition they deserve. They don't get the, the love that they deserve. So we're here to give flowers. Derek Coleman, DC, the big lefty straight out of Detroit, Michigan, went to Northern High School, McDonald's All-American, eventually went to Syracuse University, played 4 seasons, holds the NCAA records for rebounds in a career, playing 4 seasons at Syracuse. Matter of fact, his freshman year, he went to the national championship game and had 19 rebounds. Like, the man is a beast. He averaged 18 and 10 in college, eventually got drafted. 1990 NBA draft, got drafted #1 by the New Jersey Nets, won Rookie of the Year that season, averaging, you guessed it, 18 and 10. He brought that average up to 20 and 10 in 1994 when he paired up with Kenny Anderson. Him and Kenny Anderson were ballers. Like, they ended up becoming known as the East Coast John Stockton and Karl Malone just because they were that dominant. And speaking of Karl Malone, him and Derek Coleman did not get along. Matter of fact, Derek Coleman called Karl Malone an Uncle Tom on court. So they had beef. Like, the beef was real. But they made the All-Star team that year in 1994, him and Kenny Anderson. They lost in the playoffs, but he still put up 20 and 10, was balling. That summer, he went to the Olympics, was part of the Dream Team 2. They won a gold medal. Then later on that summer, going into the offseason, he demanded a trade from New Jersey. Like, he just wasn't happy in New Jersey. He didn't feel like they were really doing it enough to win. So they ended up trading him for Sean Bradley. He got traded to the Sixers for Sean Bradley. That was a loss for the Nets because Sean Bradley, he wasn't it. But, Derek Coleman in Philly, he kind of struggled a little bit. He developed a heart issue, had an ankle injury too, but the heart issue was the biggest thing. And that would kind of, carry with him for the rest of his career. He was only able to play 57 games his first season. Then he played 59 games his second season. They didn't make the playoffs either season. Him and Jerry Stackhouse, they weren't really vibing. So they eventually traded. They made some trades and they acquired via draft Allen Iverson. That's when things got serious in Philly. But unfortunately, the management wasn't really vibing with Derek Coleman. Like, Derek Coleman, he's an acquired taste to some. And, Philly management just definitely didn't really like him too much. So they traded him. They traded him to Charlotte. In Charlotte, he balled out. Like, he was teamed up with Baron Davis and a few other cats, Anthony Mason. Like, they balled out in Charlotte. He did his thing. He took them to the playoffs a few times, and they definitely just made some noise in Charlotte. But again, ankle injuries and that heart issue were a factor, and he didn't play as much as he could have played. He averaged about 50, 60 games a season playing in Charlotte. So, he struggled a little bit there as well. Eventually, he was traded back to Philly. In Philly, he did his thing. He finally got his health together. His heart was able to, withstand the brunt of playing in the NBA, and he actually contributed to that team. They made it to the playoffs a few times. He had some good games, some bad games, but he was second on the team in scoring. He definitely stepped up when Allen Iverson got hurt and he had to kind of carry the load a little bit. Like, he definitely did his thing. So DC, he was a bad boy in Philly. He definitely proved himself legit. Larry Brown eventually left Philly and went to Detroit, and he brought Derek Coleman with him. Detroit, he didn't play too much in Detroit, and he was part of the Malice in the Palace when that big old fight broke out. Like, he wasn't, in the fight, but he came off the bench. And as you know, in the NBA, you can't come off the bench. He came off the bench. It was actually, suspended. So he was a slight part of it, but he only played in like 15, 20 games. He didn't really average too much, and he eventually was forced to retire due to that heart issue, and he had a bad knee and bad ankle. So, Derek Coleman had a solid career, and even in his post career, he was, had some notable events as well. During the Flint water crisis in Flint, Michigan, he was actually a Michigan resident, went back to Detroit after living in New Jersey, and he basically drove 60 plus miles to Flint, Michigan to deliver those people water. Like, he stepped out his character, and used his money for the good and actually help people. So that's, commendable for Derek Coleman. Like, that's, respect on that. Derek Coleman, Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, Rasheed Wallace, Chris Webber, those were all players I looked up to as a kid because they were beasts on the block. Back to the basket games was flawless. Like, they definitely did their thing. So Derek Coleman is a player that needs to be recognized. And, I'm just here shouting him out, giving him his flowers, man, because Derek Coleman was a beast. He's somebody that I looked up to and somebody that was a baller out there. So shout out Derek Coleman. All right, let's talk about some baseball. Baseball, my favorite sport. That's right, baseball is my favorite sport. I grew up playing basketball, but baseball as a man, I've kind of grown up and understand how that game works, and I really love watching baseball. It's definitely chess. Like, it's a chess game on the field. You just got to pay attention. But yeah, man, Scott Boras update. Got some Scott Boras updates on his clients. Now, as we all know, Cody Bellinger wanted 200 plus million, only got 80 million. Matt Chapman wanted 150 million, only got 54 million. Now Blake Snell signed. Blake Snell actually signed with the San Francisco Giants, and he wanted 270 million coming into the offseason. He got 62 million for 2 years with opt-outs, of course, because that's the Scott Boras special. Like, Scott Boras is killing his clients. Like, it doesn't even make any sense. Like, you know, they're coming in asking for all this money, and they're settling for not even a quarter of the money they're looking for, and they're starting to spring training with like 10 days left of spring training. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, he's put his players in the worst possible position as far as I'm concerned. Like, the Giants did a lot this year. They signed Matt Chapman at third base. They signed what's his name, Jung-Ho Lee. They signed him to a 6-year contract. So they definitely been making some noise. But again, Blake Snell, like, he's going to get off to a slow start. Like, he's going to, overexert himself. Like, he's just not going to be the same pitcher he was with the Padres last season. At least I don't think so, because of everything that's going on with his contract and signing. So stay tuned on that one. But I just don't like what's going on with Scott Boras and his clients. Speaking of the San Diego Padres, Dylan Cease was traded to the Padres for the White Sox. The Padres are making some noise. They lost Blake Snell, Josh Hader, Trent Grisham, and of course Juan Soto and a few other starters. But they're definitely making up for it by trading and signing players. Like, they got Dylan Cease now, who's a strong pitcher. Like, he had a 2.20 ERA and struck out 11 hitters per 9 innings last season. A lot of scouts say he could either be a strong number 1 or a sometimey number 5. Like, that tells me he's a little inconsistent when it comes to his pitches. But hey, the Padres already got Mike King, they got Brito, they got Vasquez. Like, they got some pitching depth down in San Diego now. So, they can afford to deal with Cease. If Cease can bring anything close to what he brought last season with that 2.2 ERA, like, the Padres are going to be tough, because they still got their bats, they still got that offense. Like, they don't have Juan Soto anymore, which hurts, but they still have decent players on the offensive side of the ball. So, if they can fill in the gap in the bullpen that Hader left, like, I feel like the Padres are going to make some noise in the West. Like, the Giants retooled, the Dodgers obviously retooled, spending $1 billion on their team. Speaking of the Dodgers, Ohtani started a throwing program this offseason in spring training. So chances are he's going to be playing in the outfield. He's definitely not pitching, but he's going to be playing in the outfield, which is dope, because Ohtani is a solid defensive outfielder. Like, he has a strong arm, of course, and he plays good defense out there. So it'll be dope to see him out there for the Dodgers. Like, the Dodgers spend a lot of money on their team, so they need, and especially a lot of money on Ohtani. It's deferred, but still, you know what I mean? To play that much for a full-time DH, you definitely want to see him in the outfield. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. On a negative front, Garrett Cole is going to be out 3 to 4 weeks with a strained elbow. Like, basically he just overdid it in spring training, didn't get enough rest in between throwing sessions, and he just kind of overdid it on his arm. This is actually good news, because you don't want to see him have to get a surgery, Tommy John or anything like that on his elbow and lose the season. So let's give him some weeks and we'll see him in May. DJ LeMahieu bruised his right foot pretty bad in a spring training game last Saturday, so he's going to be out for a while. Now, this is tough news, because DJ LeMahieu has some foot issues a couple seasons ago that kind of hurt his season as well. He was just getting healthy this past season, and now to get another bruise on his foot, like, it's just bad news. Hopefully he can bounce back and hopefully have a good season. But quite honestly, I'm not I don't have my hopes up, just because I'm a Yankee fan, as we all know, and I watched LeMahieu play, and he's very dependent on him being completely intact. And if he has any type of issues, that throws that swing off, and he's not as solid as he can be. So I'm praying for him, but it's not really looking too good. The Toronto Blue Jays signed Joey Votto. Joey Votto is a former Cincinnati Red, played there his whole career, and on the first pitch, Joey Votto hit a home run in spring training in his debut. So he's off to a good start. Definitely interested to see what he does in Toronto. He's actually from Toronto. He's a native of Toronto, so it'll be really cool to see him play for his hometown team. Joey Votto Machado, is a solid player. I'm really not looking forward to playing Toronto because Toronto's got a good squad and they usually give my Yankees a push. But we'll see what happens, man. I'm really excited for baseball to start. Like I said, 10 more days in spring training, then we got Major League Baseball on deck. Like between March Madness, the NBA playoffs starting up, and now baseball starting up, this is literally the best time of the year. And I'm just overly excited. Can't wait to get started. All right, WNBA news. Let's talk about the ladies. Breanna Stewart, MVP, re-signed with the New York Liberty. She took a small contract just to give the team flexibility and signing other players. So they just re-ahead and signed the lineup they had, re-signed the lineup they had last season. JJ's back, Ionescu's back, Vandersloot's back, Laney is back. They're basically running it back. They feel like they got, cheated a little bit last season, and they feel like they could win it. Like, I was actually rooting for the Liberty last season, and they could have done it, but they choked up in the finals. Like, the Aces took their heart. So I could understand them wanting to get back, but I just don't know if they're gonna beat the Aces. Like, the Aces are a tough squad. They're gonna have a healthy Candace Parker this season. Like, it's gonna be tough for the Liberty to beat the Aces, but they're running it back. So let's see how it goes. Minnesota Lynx announced they're retiring Maya Moore's jersey. This is really dope. They're actually doing it August 24th versus the Indiana Fever. This is really dope because the Indiana Fever potentially are going to draft Caitlin Clark with the #1 pick. Now, as we all know, Caitlin Clark is a big fan of Maya Moore. So she's actually going to be able to witness Maya Moore getting her jersey retired. So this is really cool to watch. Maya Moore is a winner. Time Magazine called her one of the most influential people in 2020. Sports Illustrated says she's the greatest woman in the history of women's basketball. Like, Maya Moore is a beast. She was drafted in 2011, #1, won Rookie of the Year and a championship in her first year. She's one of 2 players to do that, Rookie of the Year and win a championship. She's won championships in 2011, 2013, 2015, 2017. Like, she won the MVP, Finals MVP in 2013. She won a regular season MVP in 2014. She has 3 All-Star MVPs, 2 Olympic gold medals, a scoring title. And she's even done it overseas. In 2012, she won the Spanish League title and the EuroLeague title. And between the years of 2013 and 2015, she won a Chinese League title every single year. Like, there's no wonder, people have named her the most winningest player in the history of women's basketball because she wins everywhere she goes. Now, unfortunately, in 2023 on Good Morning America, she announced her retirement from the game. She's basically retiring to focus on criminal justice, family, and ministry. Like, she just had interests that, were outside of basketball, which, you got to respect. And, she's definitely held her own out there. We definitely miss her on the basketball court, but notice she's out there, working to cause change in the American justice system is commendable and, is respectable. So definitely big up to Maya Moore. Congratulations on the jersey retirement, and see you in August. All right, y'all know what time it is. With your fantasy, with your fantasy, with your fantasy. Yo, this is my segment, especially now. Fantasy playoffs are starting up. If you're in the ESPN league, you got a couple more weeks to go. But if you're in the Yahoo league, playoffs are definitely on and popping. And there's a lot of players out there moving around. First off, Tyler Hero, not playing, out 1 to 2 weeks with a hurt ankle. He actually a hurt foot. He has some injections into that foot, so it looks like he's going to be out for a few more weeks. You could look at Duncan Robinson, who was balling, but now he's got a bad back, so he's out for a few weeks. Like, the Miami Heat are a tough team to look at when it comes to fantasy. Kelly Olynyk is a good pickup to make also, coming out of Toronto. He doesn't get as many rebounds as you like for a power forward, but he definitely gets steals and blocks for whatever reason, and he can hit a jump shot. He can hit threes. Like, he's definitely got a solid field goal percentage and 3-point percentage. So I would look at Kelly Olynyk as an option just because Scotty Barnes is out for the year and they don't really have too much going on in Toronto, and it looks like Kelly Olynyk is going to get some playing time and he's going to get some usage. So I would definitely look at him as an option. Bilal Coulibaly in Washington is actually out for the season. He fractured his wrist right when he's kind of getting in the groove. He, up and hurts himself, and he's now out for the year. So we'll see him next year. But in the meantime, I think Justin Champagne is a good pickup to make. He's getting solid minutes. He's a double-double contributor, get you points and rebounds, get you blocks, low turnovers. Like, he's a high percentage. Like, he's a really solid player to pick up. So I would look at Champagne as an option to pick up in case you're somebody who's looking to replace Bilal. Speaking of injuries, Donovan Mitchell out in Cleveland has got hurt again. He actually broke broke his nose or fractured his nose or did something to his nose, and he's actually out for a week or so. That's unfortunate news if you're in a Yahoo league, because the playoffs have started, and he's probably a player you're depending on right now to make it back. But if you're ESPN league, you're like, yo, bro, take your time. Just make sure you're back in a couple weeks when the playoffs start. But and if you need somebody to replace him, I would look at maybe one of the Charlotte guards. Mimic is a good point guard right now. He's a good guard to pick up. So I would look at him or some other guards, but Donovan Mitchell's going to be out. And just like usual Donovan Mitchell, like he's in and out of lineups. He's always hurt, whether it's a knee or now he's hurt his nose. Like it's always something with this guy. So, I would definitely look for a backup for Donovan Mitchell if you don't have one already. But that's about it, what I got for fantasy, man. Good luck in the playoffs. The playoffs are always a fun time when it comes to fantasy sports. We play the whole season to get to the playoffs to see who's going to get that trophy. So let's get it. All right, y'all know what time it is. Sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week, sneaker of the week. This week or this month is Air Max month, so we're going to cover all Air Maxes. We're going to, talk about a lot of Air Maxes in March. I went to storage and got some more shoes, so I definitely got some Air Maxes back here to talk about. This week, we're going to talk about some classics. These Air Maxes came back all the way back in 1995. They were worn by KG, Tim Duncan, Scottie Pippen. A lot of players wore these shoes, so they were classic shoes. They're the Air Max up tempos. I call them the Air Max up tempos. You know what I mean? Like these shoes are classic shoes for me. Like I wore these back in high school. Like these are shoes that I definitely represented and I love wearing. They're really big man shoes in my opinion because they're nice and bulky. They have good ankle support as well. So if you got bad ankles or you're moving around a lot laterally, these are good shoes to wear. They're really, like I said, they have the Air Max technology. They're the first basketball shoe to have this on a shoe, and a lot of shoes after this had the Air Max technology, but these were basically the originators. These are the first shoes that they included in them. I actually got some LeBrons back there. They got the Air Maxes too, and yeah, I wear more than Jordans. I got some LeBrons back there too. But yeah, these shoes are classic shoes. I love these shoes. They remind me of my basketball playing days. Whenever I go hoop, I throw these on. You know what I mean? Like these are classic shoes. If they happen to retro, they haven't retroed since 2003, 2004. So they definitely due for a retro. But if they do, I'ma cop them. I suggest you to too, because these shoes are absolutely fire. All right, album of the week. This week, I'm a big fan of Tupac, so we're gonna cover a Tupac album. It's actually a Tupac album that came out after his death in 1999. And back in the mid to early 90s, they had a lot of Machiavelli tapes out there, these Machiavelli mixtapes. Basically, they were unreleased music he did with Death Row Records, and after his death, they were all over the bootleg network. Everybody had a Machiavelli mixtapes collection. One of my boys, a real good friend of mine, he had actually a CD wallet full of Machiavelli CDs, and we used to roll around the valley bumping those on the way to go ball at their various parks. So I used to listen to all these songs. He knew them all by heart. It was crazy. He knew these songs like he wrote them, but they were definitely dope songs. And now this album called Still I Rise by Tupac and the Outlaws had a lot of songs from those Machiavelli mixtapes. Secret of Wars, Homeboys, High Speed, Teardrops and Closed Caskets, You Can Be Touched were all originally mixtape songs that they put on this album. Really a dope album. Actually, a song, Letter to the President, was on a Training Day soundtrack. It's actually a song you hear on the film Training Day, so that's a dope track too. But one of my favorite tracks was an ode to a Maya Angelou poem called Still I Rise, which is the name of the album. But basically this song is it just captures what Tupac was about, like his writing style, like his heart, like he put it out on this song. Like it was a really dope song. It's one of my favorite Tupac songs. And this album is just a really classic album when it comes to Tupac. It's not all off that hardcore East Coast, West Coast stuff. It's just Tupac doing what he does best, just being an artist and kind of, displaying what makes him a great artist. So shout out Tupac, rest in peace Tupac. You'll always be missed. He's, a legend out here, and just love to Tupac. All right, that's it. That's the show. Like, subscribe. See y'all next week. Holla.